Next, I want to introduce Peter Carroll, who I'm sorry, Paul Carroll, not the coach of the Seattle football team. I went to University of Miami, where he actually coached before going on to other coaching things, so I have his name stuck in my head sometimes. Paul Carroll from Newport. Some might describe him as their economic development director, but I like his title a lot better, the civic investment director. I think he's somebody with the vision for what he thinks Newport can really achieve under a climate change reality that we know we're all facing, in terms of economic development, in terms of making the quality of life of Newport residents better. And I'm hoping some of that also we can translate, obviously, into success for the state in those same kinds of categories. And so let me hand that off then to Paul Carroll of Newport. Thank you.
I appreciate you taking the time today. I think what's really important is this discussion and the fact that the state in multiple areas are having this discussion about resiliency, about climate change. And I think it's a great opportunity also for the economic development for the state. I have about a 25-year career that's taken me to various places in the United States and various places in the world. Most of the areas I've worked in economic development and business development, have had some effect. Climate change, the environment has been very important to it. But I have to tell you, this week is my one-year anniversary in the city of Newport. And I had been there just about a week, and individuals came over and we were talking about the opportunities and what Newport's about. And it's from one of your great organizations, CRMC. And I started talking about, sea level rise and all these issues about resiliency. The gentleman in charge says, Paul, you don't have to worry about that sea level rise thing. He goes, it'll be the storm surge, the wind, and the fire that gets you well before that. And I started explaining, I said, well, tell me about this. Tell me about the storms. And they told us about, the predictions when Lewis was talking about the 100-year events. And he said, we're probably looking at a direct hit for a Category 3 or above, 2 of them in the next 10 years, those 2 events. He says, if you look at Newport, you look at your waterfront, you look at where your streets are. He says, America's Cup will be flooded. He goes, going out from Easton's Beach, that'll be flooded. And your only escape route is through the downtown section. And he goes, now think of it. It's wind. You may lose your water suppression, your fire suppression, and you're in a colonial city that's made out of wood. He goes, it's burning. And I sat there, I thought, great. I've been here for at least 1 week, and that's my whole ability to try to promote this. But one of the opportunities, and I think I'm going to take a little bit of a different tact today, and I kind of feel a little bit embarrassed, but I need to use these words. From resiliency actually comes opportunity. And it comes a great opportunity for Rhode Island, and particularly geographically, demographically, for what we can do and what we have a potential to do, not only in a regional and local level, but as a national and potentially global, to really be playing in those fields. When we talk, I'll get a little bit about what we talk about integrated resiliency in Newport and what we're looking at, the types of technologies and the opportunities we're looking forward to. First of all, when we talk about integrated resiliency, we focus on the built and natural environment, but we also focus on the social, the economic, academic, and cultural. And that's what we're really trying to get at. And that's why the reason for the title and the change in my department is civic investment. Because none of these things actually happen in silos. And as soon as this conversation that you're having at the state, it's really important to understand how all of those are impacted. And particularly at the national and the global level, the intersections now of the built environment and the natural environment in social innovation and social finance. It's very, very important for Rhode Island to start to realize this and get this right. When we're talking about also, we talk about 3 stages of resiliency. The first stage is the actual shock. It can be, in this case, if we're talking about climate change, it can be a storm. It can be an event, a natural event. It can be an earthquake if we're someplace else. We're also talking, it can be a cyber attack, or it could actually be a cyber attack, which a lot of people are concerned on, coupled with the storm. And that's a huge area on our energy resiliency. So the first part of that is surviving. And that's the key, just getting through that shock to make sure that as many people are safe and away from harm's way as possible. The second stage, we look at resiliency as sustainability. It's what we learn from the shock. How do we survive this? How do we do this better next time? And then the third part of it is actually the area where I say is the opportunity. It's how do you, and I'm going to probably get a lot of people mad at me, but say, how do you profit from that learning experience? I've only been in Newport. I've been in Rhode Island for 2 years, Newport for a year. If my fifth generation were Newporters, my children, they still wouldn't be considered Newporters if we stay for 5 generations. However, I am a New Englander. And what I try to tell people is we've been doing this for 375 years in Newport. Rhode Island has been doing this. It's been being able to, when you looked at the people that went out to the sea, they learned how to, first of all, survive the storms that they came across in the sea. They came back and they figured out what they needed to do better. And then they used that for their opportunities to either be more competitive or sell their designs in shipping and different types of opportunities to build an economic base. This is nothing new. It's something that we've done for 375 years, and all it is evolving circumstances and a change. One of the things that Newport is looking at is to really take the opportunity for an integrated resiliency. We're looking at the issues when we were talking about the waterfront. We have some of the greatest cultural waterfront areas in the United States. The Point neighborhood areas in our waterfront. But the problem is, how do we start to protect them, preserve them, but also make them able to survive these changes? Two of the things that we're actually doing in Newport right now is looking towards what Rhode Island already has strong opportunities in technologies in certain areas of expertise. This is where we're looking at resilience in environmental, oceanographic, as well as digital and oceanographic security. We really think that the key for the resiliency in a Newport and Rhode Island is around the ocean. It's getting to know the ocean, it's getting to know the threats of the ocean. 70% of your urban populations around the world are being affected by these ocean events. We see ourselves with the accelerator that we're doing at the Sheffield School in a larger innovation hub in the north end of Newport as an opportunity to set beta test sites for new types of technologies, new types of processes, to look at how to deal with these ocean events. How do you make yourself more sustainable, and how do you then actually profit from that as a group of people? Right now, just in the green infrastructure alone, Rockefeller Foundation had come out and did for each of the 50 states. They looked at each state and the opportunity that if they adopted green infrastructure as part of the process of looking forward for sustainability and resiliency, how many real new jobs would be created. Rhode Island, it was talked about that it would be 6,000 new jobs. Now, if you talk about it, and even if that's half right, so 3,000 new jobs in Rhode Island, based in an industry of resiliency and climate change and green infrastructure, is 30,000 jobs in California. It's the opportunity for a lot of these new types of technologies, these people that are trying to get this right worldwide, to come to Rhode Island and to use us as the test center and to be able to show an evidence-based testing. If we get it right, these are scalable in other parts of the world and other parts of the country. We sit between two major centers, Boston and New York. If we get hit by those types of events that they're talking about, Rhode Island will be a long period of time before it comes back on the grid, and particularly Quinnipiac Island. We want to make sure at our point that we've done all 3 levels of sustainability, that Newport and Quinnipiac Island survives it, that we learn from what happens in these events, but equally important, that we can be teachers and exporters of that knowledge. So we're really excited to be here today. Again, I really appreciate the fact that the state is taking this time to really look at this and see the full opportunity for resiliency and the opportunities for Rhode Island and the national economy. Thank you.
You see what I mean about Paul's vision and how exciting that could be for our state, and thinking about, again, a crisis, a challenge, a threat, and taking advantage of that and using it as an opportunity to think about our economy going forward.